I think one of the great phenomena of our culture is when we buy a book, we never, it's in the house when we die, right? We have thousands of them. I have thousands of books, and I don't know what to do with them. People say, well, maybe I should give them away to charity. And I say, they're my books. I read them, and I think there's that sense of ownership with books that we have. And it's one of those things that people just don't want to part with until the last possible moment, other than sharing them and giving them with a friend who will then give you their book back as a swap. But that's a very small number of people that it's in your circle that you would swap books with. But I don't know if I could ever feel like that about something that's sitting in an electronic gizmo.
Yeah, but you would turn to a book first before you turn on your computer.
Oh,
your
absolutely.
son or your grandson or granddaughter one day is going to go to the computer first, and they might get around to the book after breakfast.
Yes.
Yeah, and I guess the other side of that too is accessibility.
Yes.
You know, we're fortunate here in Canada. We're fortunate in North America, the access that we have to libraries, to books, et cetera, et cetera. But if there's some way that the internet and electronic distribution of books can open worlds of literacy and language to other people, I think that makes it a good thing. You know,
Ruth,
but it's like
you're working on a number of novels.
Yes.
You want to get them published by traditional means.
Yes, I do.
Now,
True.
what if someone said to you, "Hey, Ruth, put it up on the internet, some of what you're working on, and see whether maybe a publisher out there bites."
Right. And what about that? Would that be?
Does that seem like a reasonable option to entice you to publish on
Actually,
the internet?
I am considering putting a little bit of something on. I already have some work on my website, but a little something of a couple of my in progress. So yeah, I mean that I would consider it. Yes, I may do it. Do you think it's a problem? I don't see that. I don't see that as a problem. I don't see having a piece of it there somehow. You know, somebody's going to steal my idea. It's my voice. It's my voice. I write with my voice, and nobody else is going to write my story.
But I know people that will tell you that putting it on the internet automatically compromises the worldwide rights.
Yes, I appreciate that.
Because there's no law.
I'll change it before it gets published, James.
Yes,
It'll be fine.
The law is it's terrible as it is.
Yeah.
But there is no real law when it comes to copywriting online. There's nothing.
Yeah, I have talked to a couple of publishers actually about that fact of, like, you know, are you interfering with electronic rights or world rights, etc. And their opinion has been no, not if it's just 2 or 3 pages or a snippet, right?
Great.
And it's not considered being published either, which I think is a big concern for new writers.
You wouldn't put your whole draft up there, but a little bit.
No, not unless I was desperate.
Have been doing that.
And yes, people, yeah.
Stephen
King
did it with one of his novels.
Sure he did.
Yeah.
Sure he did.
He did it in bits and pieces to get people to, but he didn't
Of
need the
course.
money because he's already wealthy.
Yeah, precisely.
Okay, but let's bring it. There's a new book out by a guy named Jaron Lanier called "You Are Not a Gadget," and it's all about the tyranny, in his view, of the internet on writers, forcing writers to throw their stuff up there in hopes that a publisher might notice it, in hopes that new people might buy it who might be in another part of the world who wouldn't know where I am and my writing is, who might say, gee, that person, that young woman who's published those 2 terrific books, we ought to get a hold of her for worldwide rights. I mean, there is that notion, but it's also, he refers to it as oppression on writers, and he's calling for a new internet humanism to break away from the chains that the internet is putting on writers. Respond to that.
There are a lot of things that you're expected to do now, publicity-wise, that probably wasn't the case 5 or so years ago. You need to be on Twitter, you need to have a website, you need to have a blog. You hear all these things that you have to have, this online presence, because a lot of publishers, when they're looking to take a writer on, they want to see that this writer already has an audience or a platform.
It's your brand.
Especially for someone like Dawn, who's writing nonfiction and needs to show that she has a certain expertise in her area. But yeah, even as a brand new writer, I find myself on Twitter and I'm forcing myself to blog, and probably it wouldn't have been my natural choice to do these things. Once I got there, I found value in it. I've met people on Twitter. Cheryl Rainfield came out to our writing group and talk to us a lot about it and how to handle it and what's good, what's bad. It's a great networking place. But yeah, there is that pressure out there to stretch and to do things that I probably wouldn't have done if it wasn't the expectation right now.
Yeah, I have a small publishing house, and I publish mostly poetry, and I've published 2 poets so far. Kate Marshall Flaherty and Laura Bozabalian is coming out next month. But the first criteria I use for choosing who to publish is, are they talented? Yeah. And the second one is, are they going to sell their books? And both of these poets are well known for the fact that they go out into the community. They try to get as many readings as they can every year. Laura's now internationally famous. She's going to be doing her own book launches for the book in BC and other parts of North America when she's doing it at various slams. And that, to me as a publisher, that is really important because I can't afford to send her on these junkets. And so I'm really taking that into account. Are they going to flog their book in person? Are they going to do the kinds of things that they're going to need to sell the books? Now, the other thing I've done is I've made up a new contract that acknowledges that amount of effort I'm going to need from them, because the old traditional contracts don't apply anymore. If you as a writer are going to be expected to sell your own books, I think you should be compensated for that work.
And that ends that portion of our discussion, talking about the impact of the internet and the digital world on writing. Coming up in just a few moments, we're going to talk about what does going alone as a writer really mean.